Welcome to this month's episode of Best Fills, the place where failure isn't feared, it's explored. So, if you are new here, Best Fills is a brave space where we unpack the stories we often hide. We look at what went wrong, what it revealed, and how it shaped us. Today's guest is Sarah Kalmeta, also known as Sarah the Pivoter. In this episode, she opens up about the lessons she learned from her first marriage and the journey of self discovery that followed. Together, we explore the power of tuning in to internal cues, those quiet signals that guide us to the truth when everything else feels off course. This conversation is about truly listening to ourselves and finding clarity in what we hear. So let's get into it. So, Sarah, welcome to the Best Girls podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you as a guest on today. And I really must thank James because he was one of the guests on the first season and he made the introduction. So, James, thank you very much for bringing this magic together today.
Yes, thank you, James. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. So, what I'm going to do is just read a little bit about you, about who you are professionally, and then we'll get into some more details about Sarah as a person.
Perfect.
Yes. So Sarah Kalmeta, aka Sarah the Pivoter, is an entrepreneur, professional speaker, podcast host, and a published poet. Maybe we'll get you to do one of your poems for us today. As founder of the Pivot Point International, a high performance consultancy, she specializes in challenging the status quo in leadership and life, and in how we make choices to help organizations move through change and navigate intense and extreme environments. She believes in movements and is on a mission to help people unlock their inner pivoter, facing life and all of its turbulence with courage, strength, and a dash of playfulness. Have to have playfulness in there.
Absolutely. We do. We do.
Sarah has been on global stages, changing minds and touching hearts regularly since 2017, with her roots in public speaking beginning when she was just 14 years as a cadet in the Civil Air Patrol in Sedona, Arizona. Sitting on several boards within the aviation industry, Sarah is a relentless truth seeker, promoting nonlinear thinking through visionary design and creative solutions to complex problems. With over 15 years in business aviation and 13 years in Asia, Sarah has real world experience leading across cultures and managing high stress situations. She helps ambitious professionals slow down, build self awareness, and boldly take action while building boundaries and avoiding burnout. Sarah has worked with companies like Goldman Sachs, Singapore Airlines, and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. She's the chair of the STX Mentorship Committee, a mentor for women in aviation international, and sits on the Texas A&M Women in Leadership Certificate Program board. An avid space advocate, Sarah is Earthlight Foundation spokesperson and a member of the Analog Astronaut community and the Planetary Society, and is on the team for leadership development training, Space Kind, and Cosmic Citizen. This is Sarah the Pivoter, and we are going to be having such a wonderful conversation today.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Allison.
You are
It's great.
very welcome.
It's really great to be here.
Yes. So I just read a whole lot of information about your professional side. But one of the things I also like to get to know a little bit about is you personally. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up, about your family, that type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that there's even been some pivots since I gave you that bio.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Wow.
I have to live
Yes.
up to Sarah the Pivoter, right? It's on
Yes,
brand.
exactly.
So how did I grow up? Okay, so I grew up in Chicago.
Mhm.
I'm a first generation American. So I grew up with exposure to different cultures from an early age, which was very valuable. And I lived in Chicago until about 14. And then we moved as a family to Sedona, Arizona, which is where I went to high school. And then I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, so just about 45-minute drive, excuse me, from
Okay.
home,
Mhm.
in beautiful mountains, and just there were like the the Air Force would be flying their fighter jets over campus all the time because they knew we didn't care about the sound.
The sound.
We would get all excited and like run outside and look up. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I grew up, I was a figure skater for the early part of my life, semi-professional figure skating,
Nice.
competing. My original goal in life was to go to the Olympics as a figure skater.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
Wow.
injury meant that I had to pivot and make some
Mm-hmm.
other choices.
Mm-hmm.
But it really taught me that discipline that is required for going after big things.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to do something, and building that muscle of doing it anyway, and, embracing the suck, as a lot of people like to say. Um, yeah. And so that influence, my mom was an entrepreneur, a single mother growing up, and she remarried later in life. And I have a brother and sister from that remarriage. And my little brother's getting married next week. I can't believe it.
Wonderful. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
I could imagine. So was that move from figure skating with the injury, would you consider that your first major pivot then?
Yeah, I would say so.
Hmm.
Yes, because that was, in my mind, it was going to be train, compete, retire, be a coach.
Yes.
That was the kind of
Yeah.
like life cycle. And
Yeah.
I was at the ice rink from 5 to 7:30 in the morning every morning before
Wow.
school. And then I would change in the
Wow.
car and get dropped off at school. And then I'd go back after for another 2 to 3 hours. And in the summer, I'd be there from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. on ice, off ice training, weight training, ballet, Pilates, strength, edge work, choreography, all of the things.
Wow.
And I loved it. It was great.
I could imagine. Yeah.
But that was definitely my first big pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, because this is the podcast about failure, and I always like to get an idea from my guests, what
Yeah.
was their earliest memory of failure?
Earliest memory of failure.
Hmm.
Let's see. I mean, there's definitely some figure skating ones, but I
Yeah.
think probably my earliest memory would be like second. I was very clear in my mind. I was at the ice rink. I think I got a C on a math test
Hmm.
because I just, I didn't study. I didn't really care.
You were skating.
I was skating, yeah, and that was not okay in my
Yeah.
household. So that was
Right.
relayed to me, and we there were some conversations, but performance was
Hmm.
very much a big focus.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I never got another C. I was a straight A student until my final year of college. I think it
Yeah.
was. I got my
Yeah.
first C in C, excuse me, B, B plus
Hmm.
in corporate finance. And I remember I
Hmm.
had like a rage fit and a whole meltdown about it, because up to that point I was a straight A student, and like my
Yeah.
identity was tied to that. And like,
Hmm.
how dare I was like just under the A minus too. So of course was
Yeah.
kicking myself and everything.
Yeah.
And now I realize that none of that mattered. And yes, it was important to apply myself and not F off, because that's what I was doing, is not
Yeah.
paying attention.
Yeah.
And I had the skill set. I just wasn't applying myself. And yeah, that was probably my first big one, because I remember the disappointment, the anger,
Mm.
the the whole experience with my mother about that first C, and I never wanted to get a C
To
again.
repeat. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that experience with mom, because that conversation had to have had a significant impact, because all throughout school life now were a straight A student. So tell us a little bit about how that impacted you, maybe emotionally, mentally, that type of stuff.
Well, emotionally, mentally, I was terrified to not get an
Right. Yes. Okay.
A,
Hmm.
for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And then when I did get the A, it was like, well, we expect that. So, okay, great. It wasn't
Hmm.
even like this, it wasn't a huge celebration. It was just like, yeah, that's what you do because you're smart
Hmm.
and you're capable,
Yeah.
like pat on the back for a moment. Now, like, go back to skating or go back to the next thing.
Yeah.
Being a first generation American too, there was a lot of um, you know, don't be lazy.
Got
Like
it.
so much has been given up so that you could have this opportunity.
Hmm.
Make sure you don't waste it, right? That was this narrative that was explicit sometimes and implicit other times.
Got it.
And it just meant that I really applied myself from a young age, but
Hmm.
I also didn't ever feel safe in rest. I felt like I would be wasting time. I was, it was, I hated rest day at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really impacted me because it was this very rigid way of being. And like I
Yeah.
tied my self worth and my identity to getting top grades, to being a
Yeah.
top performer. And if I
Hmm.
wasn't, it was like I was bad and
Right. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I was a failure. Not that I failed in performance or that I can look and see what do I do to improve next time and the effort
Hmm.
that I'm applying, but rather that
Yeah.
like I enmeshed the two, they collapsed, and
Yes.
it became
Yeah.
like I'm a failure.
Got
And
it.
that was a very anxiety inducing way to live. Although I
Hmm.
would have never told you that I had anxiety before because I didn't
Yeah.
realize that that's what was
It
going
was.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I became, a workaholic. I, through my working career, especially when I knew James in the business aviation world when we first met,
Yeah.
it was like working tons of hours per week, working in the communities of our industry,
Hmm.
on a pro bono volunteer basis and competing in CrossFit and right.
Wow.
There was always
That
something that
always
I
the
was
next
up
thing.
to.
Hmm.
Right. Again,
Hmm.
didn't know how to rest. So that
Yeah.
was the impact that it had on me. And it took me a long time to one even recognize it. And then once I
Hmm.
had the awareness, again, a long time to take steps to unwind those beliefs,
Yeah.
recreate something for myself and
Yeah.
act and be from a different place.
So one of the things that you said and you talked about, was from the perspective of being a first generation American citizen and almost well, I would say pressure for no, for lack of a better word, but that understanding that as the first generation, because of the sacrifices that were made by your parents and by other members of your community, there was this expectation that you would do well. When you think back about you're, in school when you're with other people who were not, you know, perhaps didn't have that same expectation, did you ever feel maybe a sense of like wanting to have a little bit more freedom or a drive? Did you long for that? Or was it more like you not understanding why maybe others weren't putting in as much effort as you were? Was there any, type of you would say tension between that?
That's a great question. And, of course, at the time, I wouldn't have recognized that tension, but
Yeah,
reflection, hindsight's always 2020. And then now
it is.
a level of maturity much later in life than at that time. I would say I definitely had envy towards the other
Right.
kids I didn't really have friends in school until
Mhm.
I stopped figure skating because all my friends were at the ice rink.
Got it.
And all of the friends in school, I could never go hang out after school. Or, a lot of times on the weekends, I'd be traveling for competition. So it was really hard to
Yeah,
create those bonds. And they didn't
got it.
understand the level of dedication and discipline that I had towards
Mm.
skating. And so there was
Right.
this disconnect, right? But then
Yeah.
when I stopped skating and I was only in school, I started to develop those friendships. And there was two sides to that. One side of
Hmm.
it was the envy of their ability to play and be playful and seemingly
Hmm.
have no care or worry about things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then the other side of that was frustration at them not moving as fast as me.
Understood. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And because it's so interesting because you talked about, being envious of their playfulness and so forth, but in your bio, you talk playfulness is something that came out very as something that's very big for you. Do you think that that's a throwback, for example, to those early experiences that you've had?
I think the fact is I have a very playful nature,
Got
but I
it.
learned
Yes.
how to control that, for lack of a better term, and fit
Hmm.
myself into a expectation,
Hmm.
which
Got
for
it.
then many years I lived in that people pleasing and like let me be the
Hmm.
chameleon for fitting in here,
Got
right?
it. Yeah.
And not really having a strong stand for anything, and feeling like, well, that's not accepted. I need to
Hmm.
be capable and top performing and all of these things. And if I'm too playful or too much or this or that, whatever story my young self adopted,
Yeah.
then like if you met me in my 20s to 30s, you would have not described me as a playful person.
Hmm.
Even though, I did go out and I had fun, I was not playful.
Got
Now, that
it.
would be a word that people would describe me as, including at
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. And even when you were talking about rest, I find that I feel so guilty when I take a rest, Sarah. I would know that I am tired. I
Mhm.
would know that if I go and I take a 2 hour nap or whatever, when I come back to whatever it is I'm gonna be, I was working on in 30 minutes complete. Because I am, but when I tell you the guilt sometimes that keeps me even from taking a break, and
Yeah,
I'm trying so hard. I've tried it, I've been working on it, and it is much better now. But I have to be so intentional about you need to
absolutely.
take a break. Go and take the break now. I
When I
try
first
so.
started, when I first
Uh-huh.
started this journey,
Yeah.
I had to literally write myself a permission slip. And it
Oh
works.
wow.
It
Yeah.
actually works. I had a coach do that with me and train
Yeah.
me in it. And I would write myself a permission slip to go take a nap or to go do not have nothing on the calendar.
Yeah.
And I started to learn how to schedule it in my calendar because I
Yeah.
honor the time with others, right? So I scheduling that time with myself made it easier to show up for myself when for so many
Got
years
it.
I didn't know how to. Also, this one in the back that you see, this
Yeah.
Doberman looking out
Yes.
the window,
Yeah.
she is my nervous system regulation
All right.
coach. And she
Yes.
reminds me to take breaks, because we go outside together, we go for walks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
helps
Yeah.
me be a lot more present. So
Love
definitely been
it.
a big shift having her in my life.
I like the permission slip. I think I'm gonna take that permission slip
Yes.
ID.
Yes, it's very, very valuable, and it seems silly,
Yeah,
but especially, like, our generation, when we grew up in the school systems that we had and the way that school was, it's like the
yeah,
permission slip to go to the bathroom, right? The permission slip
yes,
to
yeah.
to
So
be in the
true.
hallway and not in class, right? So it's kind of like ingrained in us. It's this funny thing, and so it really, really works.
So you said play, and we're gonna play a game now, actually.
Okay, perfect. I love games.
I've got some cards here,
Okay,
and they each have a question. So I'm
okay,
gonna pick a card for us, and we both will answer that question. So
sure.
let's see what our first question is. What is a conversation I wish that I could have again? Um, Actually, I think probably with my grandmother.
Mm,
She's passed away. No, she's been dead. She died in 2012. She died on the 31st of December 2012. I would never forget it because I thought it was such a statement. The
statement.
last day, it was such a statement. She was 90. She'd had a bit of a stroke,
Mm,
and she was deteriorating. So we thought, that we honestly thought she would have passed away sooner. But she rallied. She During Christmas, she was eating, her appetite had returned. She regained a whole host of weight. And we thought, okay, good, she's past the hump. So no, we're gonna be good. But no, on the 31st of
mm,
December, because my mom used to take care of her. She called us
okay.
at home, and just told us that Granny had passed away. And I said to
Mm,
myself, her name is Lillian. I said, Lillian, you are a class act. You made sure that you waited until the end of the year to do it. But what I miss about my grandmother, yeah, what I missed about the
yeah,
conversations that we had as well, like my grand, and it's probably just less maybe conversations we had, but watching how she interacted with people. So she was very much a community spirit, and she very much also very very religious, very much a Christian. So on evenings when we would be going to church or walking to the church, she lived like we had to pass a number of people in the community to get to the church,
sure.
and my grandmother would stop at every single house in the neighborhood, and
Okay,
she'd
so
be
she
like,
was yeah,
Miss.
she was the the mayoress of the town.
Exactly. To speak to every single person. And when I look, I think during the point in time, during what when it was happening, I don't think I was very moved by it. But when my memory of it is such a pleasant one of how everybody in the community just embraced her, responded so pleasantly to her, the care and the concern that she exhibited, just having a chat with everybody, especially those who were older and were able to be as mobile and so forth. Like that is something that I would like to experience again, I guess maybe just for the nostalgia of it and just seeing my grandmother in action, really. How about you? What is the conversation that you wish you could have again?
Thank you for sharing that. That's a wonderful story, and I love
Thank
seeing
you.
that the way it lights you up. That vitality that
Yes.
your grandmother
Yeah.
clearly had, and that you
Oh,
inherited
she
from
was
her.
she was a sweetheart.
um, a conversation that I would like to have again would be with someone who's also passed away, a dear friend of mine.
Yes.
And when I was younger, I had always wanted a big brother for whatever
Hmm.
reason. Like that was something that when I saw other kids who had big brothers, I was like, I want one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we met later in life. I was in my late 20s. We met at
Mhm.
a very pivotal time. I was going through separation from my ex-husband,
Yeah.
and he's actually the reason that I'm in Austin now.
Right.
And we just had he taught me so much, and I was actually staying with him the weekend, or the week that he passed, when his accident happened, and the next few
Hmm.
days in the hospital.
Hmm.
And so just any of the conversations that we would have had, I would love to go and revisit, because every
Yeah.
time that I was with him, I was really present. He was one of the first people that saw potential in everyone he met, but he loved them
Hmm.
where they were at. And because of
Mm.
that, it allowed them to move towards that potential rather than
I love
placing
that. Yeah.
some
Hmm.
expectation, or like trying
Mm.
to force them into that way. And he
Got
just had
it.
this beautiful way of being, and making you feel seen. I remember the first time he told me, thank you for your magic. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't have any magic. I'm a
Uh-huh.
guest at this retreat. Like I'm just here. And he's like, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that really started to shift how I experienced myself, and how I experienced others. And so I miss him every
Uh,
day, but I would definitely
yeah.
like to revisit those conversations.
Conversation. Oh, he sounds wonderful. He sounds wonderful. So now we're gonna get into the meat of the matter. You're here to share your best fails with us. A story of a failure that had a significant impact on you and
Mm.
on the decisions that you've made in your life. So, Sarah, I am going to sit back and shut up and give the floor over to you. So tell us a little bit about the context, about what was going on and this best fails that you experienced.
So, let's see, where should I start? I've definitely had a lot of failures. I do look at the word failure though differently than most people.
Good. So tell me your definition of failure.
Well, I came across this acronym. I believe it was from David G. He's a
Hmm.
meditation guy, guru
Hmm.
in Southern California.
Hmm.
But I'm sure it's been used in many places. So I don't think he was the origination of it,
Sure.
but it is first attempt in learning.
Yes. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I like that acronym a lot to help me reframe,
Yes.
because definitely in the first part of
Exactly.
my life, the word fail was like, this is a must, like, cannot happen, avoid it at all
Yeah.
costs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And yet you learn more from failure.
Hmm.
Like if you think about the
Hmm.
most skilled people in the world, whatever their craft is, let's take like a sailor.
Hmm.
Do you want to go out sailing in the open ocean with someone who has only sailed in the harbor or near the harbor?
Yeah.
Or someone who has gone out there and faced those storms and come back,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. You want
The
that stormy
latter.
person.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want the guy with the stories.
I want to know that you've been in it, that you've been through it, and you've come out the other end, like
You know.
resilience.
Yeah.
And so once I learned that, I started to develop that more for myself. But
Yeah. I love the reframe. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really powerful reframe. So for a long time, when I would get asked this question on podcasts, I would just give that answer.
Yes.
Um, but clearly there's still things that we fail, and it's just a matter of like looking at, well, what's the performance aspect of it? Does it mean that
Hmm.
you're a failure? And that was another
Hmm.
thing I had to like uncollapse and make separate.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, one of the first things that pops into my mind was, or is, I should say,
Hmm.
the fact that my first marriage was not a success, right? That was a
Okay.
failure. We
Hmm.
separated after a
Hmm.
year of being together. And truth be told, deep down, I probably knew ahead of time that it wasn't the right fit, but I was
Okay.
too scared to talk about it with anybody,
Hmm. Yeah.
to dive in. I thought that maybe that was just normal, or that it was my
Hmm.
own problem, or daddy issues, or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And so I didn't know how to ask for help. That was a failure. I didn't know who I was, still in that
Hmm.
process of figuring that out.
Yeah.
Um, and then in the ways in which we communicated at that time, I would now classify that as failure in communication, failure in boundaries,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And if that had never occurred, I might have repeated the cycle and not learned from it.
Mhm. Got
And so
it.
while the marriage failed, ultimately from that, I became a much better person, much
Hmm.
better human, capable of relating better and of being able to be clear in not only what I need boundaries around and what I need
Hmm.
to not have, but also what I desire in life and what
Yeah.
I desire out of partnership.
Yeah.
And that's there's no arrival with any of that. It's a
It's true.
continual evolution, chipping away at the sculpture, revealing the masterpiece. But that's definitely a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, because relationships, and I guess maybe because of the world and the culture that we live in, there's a lot of emphasis placed on relationships and relationships that last. What were some of the internal thoughts, the internal struggles that you experienced as a person, going through that or having to go through that?
I think again, it was still me trying to maintain this perfection image.
Got it.
Like, I've
Hmm.
got it together. I know what I'm doing. I don't
Hmm.
need to ask for help. I
Hmm.
was so concerned about the appearance
Hmm.
that it like that overrode any internal signal that I had, or any internal need, right? I would just
Right.
override it and ignore it.
Do you have coming out of that experience, would you say that you are more in sync with yourself now in that way of recognizing your needs and being responsive to them?
Yes, yes. I mean, that was one experience of many that then over the last
Okay,
seven
yeah,
years has taken place.
got it.
Another part of that is being a competitive athlete. When you're at that high level of competition, especially around competition time, or you are trying to reach a goal in a certain amount of time, like, you ignore your body signals. Like, I'm in
Mm-hmm.
pain, but I'm going to keep training, or I'm going to keep doing this workout. Like, I can barely breathe, but I need to push in order to expand my capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to go to the bathroom, but you're working, and so you just ignore that, and like, I'm going to focus on the computer. I'm going to do this. Like, even those small things, you're ignoring those internal signals and cues. And we live in such a busy world that, we're over caffeinated, we're overstimulated. We use things like food or Instagram or Netflix or LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I used work as a convenient, because it's accepted to be a workaholic. It's
Yes.
maybe now it's changing, right? The busyness is no longer the badge of honor that it was a decade
Yeah.
ago. And it's still like an acceptable form of escapism,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're a high performer, you're high achieving. But I literally remember, even in my uh, partnership previously, I would use work as a way to hide, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to admit that it wasn't in alignment, or I didn't want to admit that I wasn't happy. And so the way to
Yes.
ignore that was to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, if I notice that I'm starting to go into like working really late, or always on the phone, I am more likely to be in gentle inquiry with myself of, why am I doing that? What's the
Yeah.
uncomfortable truth here that I maybe am trying to hide from? And you know what? Sometimes, Allison, it's not even a big thing. It's
Yeah.
something super small. And then as soon
Yes.
as I can find that, it's like, oh, and one of my mentors, dear friends, and business partners likes to say, when you can name it, you can tame it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
true. As soon as you can name it, then you have information on how to make your next decision. But when you
Yeah.
hide from it, then you're constantly in the cycle of like numbing, escapism, overriding, and that's not healthy, especially not long term.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that whole idea of manage how we manage our own internal cues. Well, what does that feel like for you now? What is it like is it a light? Is it a color? Is it a feeling, an emotion? What is
Mm.
it that signals to you, something is not right here. I need to maybe, like you said, take a minute to sit back and kind of ask myself, okay, what is happening?
I love that. I love that you made it very visceral like that. So what's happening when I'm noticing and finding the awareness, or can you just
Yeah,
at what
no,
point?
what is that? What is that cue that something is wrong before you go
Mm,
into, I need to spend some time. Yeah.
yeah. So it's different at every point, right? It
Yeah.
depends on the topic.
Yeah.
Some things are a little more, I have the muscle built up a little more
Mm-hmm.
strongly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's this like very slow, insidious
Mm-hmm.
overriding, very like nothing monumental, but it's just like
Yeah.
inflammation, right? That chronic build up.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
there's a moment that drops in. You're like, whoa, this is what I'm doing. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
I'm being rigid,
Yeah.
or I'm perfectionism snuck in, or whatever
Yeah.
the thing is. I would say um, there's this like when I sense this feeling of urgency internally,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm acting as if the world is ending over an email
You're
or a
right. Yeah.
message or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um, Same mentor, his name's Sean Flaherty. He likes to remind me that no babies are dying.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back to baseline. I'm like, yes, you're right. No,
Yeah.
there's nothing really drastically urgent here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not this massive decision. And so when I recognize that, or if I say that to myself now, but if I
Mm-hmm.
recognize this feeling of like I have to like another email, or I need to go, and it's like this fast urgent movement,
Mm-hmm.
then I take a moment, just take a deep breath. And so what I've started to do is build in regular blocks where I'm just
Mm-hmm.
off a device,
Mm-hmm.
giving myself that intentional break between meetings, and not even just taking sass out, just doing nothing.
Got it.
And starting my
Yeah.
day with meditation changes everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do have a rule, hard and fast rule. I don't touch my phone for at least 30 minutes, no matter if I'm traveling for work or not. I
Yeah.
will wake up early enough so that I do not have to touch my device for 30 minutes. But yeah, that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
internal signal is usually the urgency, the feeling of like,
Yeah.
I can't breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Interesting you asked about a texture or a color. I would say that
Yeah.
it's almost like when there's a storm outside. Everything feels a bit
Mm-hmm.
gray, a bit dull.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not excited about things that I
Yeah.
could be excited about.
Yeah.
And that's just this little pivot, 1 degree, where I can go from like this way over here and choose to be excited about this,
Mm.
even though, and at the same time, this is occurring, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
both things can be true. So expanding my capacity to hold that has been the biggest thing that helps me once the cue is identified, how
Yeah.
to take the appropriate action.
Yeah. So when it comes, because I know the failure we're talking about is the failure of the first marriage and everything that has, just brought to your attention over time. How did it impact, for example, your relationships with others, whether or not it is family, at work? What was the impact for you in terms of your community?
Being able to notice it, what was the impact?
Yeah, no, yeah. How did it impact? Did you lose friends? Did you gain friends? Did you have to rethink friendships, or, were people, saying things like how did your community and how did your How did people respond to you and respond to the fact that the relationship was no ending?
Yeah, so that's interesting. Well, definitely my community completely shifted, and
Hmm.
in that aftermath, I mean, part of it was also because I had given up my community
Right.
to then join my then partner's community because it felt
Hmm.
better. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is every time I would go to my community,
Hmm.
my ex-husband, when we were together,
Hmm.
one either wouldn't join me, or two, when he would join, would be kind of off on his own, not really engaging with
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
And it was uncomfortable for me. And then I would
Yeah.
get asked, like, oh, where is he? Right.
Hmm.
And it was too much of looking in this mirror of something is wrong here. Or like,
Got
my
it.
friends kind
Yeah.
of, even just by asking the question, I would like, oh, yeah, I mean, I wish he was here. But, then when he did come, it wasn't a good experience either. So I
Right.
started to hide subconsciously. I wasn't
Hmm.
aware until much, much later, but I would like
Yeah.
hide from that group,
Hmm.
or, just make up an excuse. So we started to live very separate lives. And
Hmm.
then we had this whole community together, but it was mostly like through his original group of friends. And it worked because, we same gym, so, we'd have the same activities, etc. But definitely when we
Yeah.
separated, it was like I removed myself from that CrossFit community because that was
Hmm.
his world before I came into his life. And I wanted to be
Hmm.
respectful of the fact that it would be very difficult if we were constantly in the same space together,
Yeah.
especially as I was the one who requested this separation.
Hmm.
And with that, it was just like an immediate loss of the regular outings and experiences that had been having for
Yeah.
the 5 years we were together.
Yeah.
Even one of my best girlfriends, we started to slowly drift apart because her now husband and my ex are best friends. And so, of course, there's this
Right.
natural um, awkwardness that came with that. And when we see
Yeah.
each other, there's still a lot of love, and
Hmm.
we have these beautiful memories, and we're still
Hmm.
close, but it's changed, it's shifted,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it took
Yeah.
me a long time to be okay with that, also.
Right. Got it.
But yes, community definitely changed. Some people um, celebrated me on this journey of
Hmm.
self discovery, returning home to
Hmm.
myself, learning,
Hmm.
gave me the grace to be awkward, to stumble,
Hmm.
to like acknowledge that I made mistakes, that I wasn't maybe acting in the best way at sometimes.
Hmm.
And then others really just, you know, cut me off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at first, I took that to mean something about me. And now I
Hmm.
recognize, like, no, that has nothing to do with me and everything to do with their experience.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. I
Yeah.
don't need everybody to like me, which is also a huge shift. As I
Hmm.
started to be aware of these signals and pay attention and listen and integrate, I no longer needed to try to force everybody to like me. So that shifted my leadership style, that shifted my friendship, communication, my relationships with romantic partners, with friends, with parents, with family. And it's much better being on this side of the equation.
I could imagine. And as you were
Mhm.
talking about, this very personal part of yourself, a personal, a failure in a very personal part of your experience, all of the impact it had, even on in terms of your leadership and the things you discovered about yourself and what has come out of it, which again, it just emphasizes the whole idea of the fact that our failures are not just, we don't just fail, for example, at work, we don't just fail, wherever. Our failures are, it is all of us
Yes,
that experiences that failure. We can't just put a gate and close it off because the same person is there, the same person is there. Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
Is there one thing that you would say is your biggest takeaway from this entire experience that you've had?
Hmm. The biggest takeaway, that's a lot to distill. There is no arrival. And I think that has been my biggest experience, is that there is this constant revealing of true self. There is a constant evolving, and I get to love who I am now while also having space for and being open to loving who I am becoming at the same time.
Mhm. Love that. I think sometimes, we might grow up with a very finite idea of who we are. It does not fit with us, but we oftentimes don't give ourselves space to kind of explore. And I think for many of the same reasons that you've talked about, you could potentially lose friendships, you could lose communities. You might recognize, for example, that there are things that you were doing, maybe in terms of career even, etc., that you really have no desire to do anymore. And coming to that realization is very scary. How did you manage that fear?
How did I manage that? My goodness. So, a lot of it in the beginning was stumbling my way through it, to be honest. Um, I was like, how do I express this? Yeah, in the beginning, it was definitely this whole journey of just like really understanding what was it that I did want? Who was I? If you looked at my life on paper or on my Instagram, my LinkedIn, you'd be like, she has an incredible life. Oh my God, right? Like I had the job, the title, the salary, the beautiful destination wedding, this flat that overlooked both sides of Hong Kong Harbor. I was traveling all the time. I mean, who gets to go work in the Maldives, right? Like
All right.
I had this I was competing, I looked good, blah 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 blah. And I was miserable. And it was like climbing the mountain and then getting to the top and being like, that's it. This
Mhm,
is it.
mhm,
Or like getting there and then realizing like, oh my God, there's more. I don't
mhm,
even like this. I don't want to keep going. Right.
mhm, mhm,
And so it was this just trying new things. I
mhm.
was like kind of for a while felt like I was throwing spaghetti at the wall. Just what do I like?
Yeah.
I have this clear memory of asking my mother in a text, what did I do as a child for fun? And she wrote, read,
Mhm,
LOL. And I was like, I know I liked to read. I still like to read. I'm a bookworm. Okay. I was like, what else? And she put, read, haha. I was like, okay, I get it. I was a nerd. Okay. Um, but yeah, it was just this like, okay, let me just try new things. Let me get into new communities. Let me experience how other people experience the world and just see what feels good. And in that
Mhm.
process, I started to learn and, make these micro pivots. So I think the biggest thing for me, the strategy was instead of this, like most people wait, and this is how I founded Pivot Point as well. Most people
Yeah.
wait for the big pivot. The I'm
Yeah.
graduating, I'm getting married, I'm getting divorced, I'm having kids, somebody's passed away, right? Like where I'm moving, I'm getting a
Mhm,
promotion, I'm changing
mhm.
jobs.
Yeah.
We prepare for those things, right? And
Mhm,
even when it's sudden, we kind of have a game plan because it happens to everybody. There's a lot
yeah.
of resources around it,
Mhm,
but we're not stopping in and checking at regular intervals of like, do I still want to climb this mountain? Am I
mhm.
still on the right flight? Like, just because I've been going between, let's say, like California and New York for the last 10 years doesn't mean I have to keep going to New York.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
choose to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
somewhere else, right? And so,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
with aviation being my background, I really leaned into that analogy of,
Yeah.
right, what does the next leg of my journey look like? This is
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
forever thing. And I started to treat my life as just a leg of a long series of flight legs in a journey, as well as just a
Mhm.
science experiment. Just
Yeah.
let me try this out for a week and see if I like it. Let me try this
Yeah.
out for 30 days. That's
Yeah.
all. I'm going to commit to
Yeah.
30 days. I'm going to see how that feels. And if I don't like it, I can stop it. I give myself
Yeah.
permission to stop. I give myself permission to fail. I give myself
Mhm.
permission to pivot. So,
Yeah.
realizing that marriage does not have to be forever. And that includes
Mhm.
marriage to beliefs and things that I do for money and things that I do for fun. And that concept holds true for everything. So let
Yeah.
me check in actually in my calendar. Speaking of, we talked about that earlier, a calendar every week to assess what's working well and what could be improved.
Yeah.
What do I want more of? What do I really
Mm-hmm.
love? What's lighting me up and giving me energy? And what's draining me?
Yeah.
How do I get less of that and more of the vitality activities? Um, I have a check in on my anger. How angry am
Mm.
I? Because if I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to get, that's another cue. If I'm starting to get very irritable and
Yeah.
frustrated,
Yeah.
there's something going on that needs a little
Yeah.
bit more attention.
Yeah.
And for the
Yeah.
longest time, Allison, I would have never told you I was an angry person. I was so compliant. I was so jovial, like
Mm-hmm.
social butterfly, Miss Happy, everything. But all the anger was internalized.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
For
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
women don't know how to healthily express anger. A lot of men don't know how
Yeah.
to healthily express sadness. And so I had to
Yes.
learn how to do that. And as I
Mm-hmm.
learned how to do that, that helped give me clues into my internal state and what
Mm-hmm.
needed attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, while you were talking, one of the things that came to my mind was the whole idea of sunk cost fallacy, where, we have invested so much time into a thing already. So whether or not it's a marriage, is a business, is whatever, we've invested. Sometimes that investment keeps us from taking a look and from admitting that this thing is not working for us in the way that it was before, the way that we thought it would, and that we need to make a change here. And we look back and we think we've invested so much, and sometimes we don't recognize that the what we've invested in the past is so much less than what we will invest in the future if we continue along the same path. And it is, making it's coming to grips and giving ourselves, like you said, the permission to say, look, I've made this investment. Yes. I
Well,
don't
and
want to. Yeah, no, go
another
on. What you
point,
were going to say? Yeah.
what you just triggered for me is that so many people, it's the sunk cost fallacy, right?
Yes, sunk
So
cost
many
fallacy.
people
Yeah.
think like, oh, I've spent so many years in this
Yeah.
field and now it's
Mm-hmm.
worthless.
Yes.
Um, I've spent so many years in this relationship, I might as well just stay.
Yes. Exactly.
No, like
Exactly.
you deserve to live a rich and fulfilled life. It was a learning lesson. It
Yeah.
was giving you perspective.
Yeah.
All of it is experience. And
Yes.
when you're not starting over, you're starting from experience. And that is
Yes.
really, really valuable. And being able to like connect the dots between things that seem like they're separate, being able to distill something really complex into a simple
Hmm.
statement, right? That
Yeah.
is where the value comes in. It's not in
Exactly.
that one little thing you learned. And you know what, to be honest, learning how to learn is also a skill.
Yes, it is.
And so learning all of those things that we learned, even if they're no longer relevant or something that we do day to day, it's
Mhm.
what gave us the skill set of being able to learn, being able to work in a group, even when we don't like other people, because guess what?
Mhm.
You won't always like the people you work with.
Yeah.
And they may not like you.
Hmm. It's true. Were there any specific things that you would want to share with the audience that helped your recovery? Maybe practices that you had. I know you've got the calendar, you give yourself permission, but are there any other bits that you would say, like these particular activities or approaches really was very helpful for me in my recovery process?
Uh, um, so the things in the journey that really helped me to discover was just that exposure to different communities and
Right.
seeing how other people reflected back to me
Mm-hmm.
who I was. So for example, like I went to I had this wonderful yoga teacher in Hong Kong, Victor Chow. He's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. I did my
Mm-hmm.
yoga teacher training with him during COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
I had no design of being a yoga teacher whatsoever. It was
Yeah,
just to be a more deep in my practice, right?
got it.
But through that journey, I discovered a lot about myself in the way that he taught the class, in the way that he reflected back to me and the other students, what he saw in us, what the other students, how they responded to me, because they had no context of my working self. They had no
Yeah,
context of my CrossFit self or my, whatever version that I had experienced in that point in
yeah,
my life.
yeah,
All they knew was the Sarah that came to yoga class. So
yeah.
the way they experienced me was vastly different. And it really opened up like, wow. oh, yeah, I'm also that,
Well, I
you know?
love
And so
that.
by
Yeah.
if you're always in the same environment, you don't necessarily get that flavor, right? If you surround yourself with
Mhm.
people that are very much like you're not getting the contrast.
Yeah.
I started asking at events, instead of what do you do? I know James is big on this too. Just like
Uh-huh.
what lights you up?
Love it.
What's lighting
Hmm.
you up right now? And get the
Yes.
person talking about that. And then you get to
Yes.
know the person. Because
Yeah.
what you do for money is going to change. Whatever you're doing right now on July 17th, 2025, I can guarantee you on July 17th, 2035 will
It
look
will
very, very
not be the
different.
same.
It will be very, very different. The more I opened myself up to like the imagine if framework rather than
Hmm.
what if, that gave
Yes.
me access to what's possible. If I use my
Hmm.
imagination, I'm creative rather than constraints of what if this worst thing happens and
Hmm.
what if they don't like me.
Hmm.
Um, Guess what? Not everyone's going to like you. And if you never try, you'll never know. And the
Yeah.
amount of things that I have been able to make happen in life, create in life, receive in life has been simply because I asked.
Hmm.
And so asking questions, both of myself and of others, was definitely a like number one takeaway of all of that I just spewed out.
Hmm.
Ask questions,
I love
reflect
that.
more,
Yeah.
ask questions of other people, ask them how they experience you,
Yeah.
because their experience of you might be very different than what you think they're experiencing.
I'm telling you, we tend to be a lot better at having internal self-awareness. So we are aware of what we like, what we don't like, those types of things, but we are not as good as being very aware of how people are experiencing us. For some people, yes, but we really are
Well, we
not
all
that
we all
good.
have blind spots. We all have
Yes,
blind spots, and
exactly.
you might be
Exactly.
aware of your partner's experience of you or
Hmm.
someone, but being aware does not mean that you know,
True. Yeah.
because that's then bringing an assumption.
Hmm.
And just because that's true today does not make that true tomorrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's
Very true.
very, yeah, it's a fluid, living, breathing thing. So remembering that is very powerful.
Well, I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
And the question is this: Is there anyone, an unsung hero, some person who really was very helpful to you through the process of recovery that you would want to shout out? So first is, who is there a person and what did they do that was so impactful for you during your recovery process?
Um, I mean, there wasn't a singular person. There were
Which is
many.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, there were many. I would say one of my best friends, Jai from Hong Kong,
Yeah.
he was there. Like so were Tom and Alex and Nate and Noreen,
Yeah.
Stephanie, Sophie. Like there were just so many people in my life.
Mm,
Megan,
hmm.
Jen. Like I could just go down a laundry list. But Jai
Yeah.
is one of the top ones because he's seen me at the high highs and at the low
Hmm.
lows,
Hmm.
and through it all, he's been there.
Mm,
Same for my
hmm.
best friend Muriel. She was like is like my big sister,
Hmm.
and just she's been there, and she's been direct but kind when I've been a brat or
Yes.
when I'm locked in a story. And
Mm,
um, they've been there. My best friend Brandon, for sure, he's known me the longest since university days. We've been friends for almost 20 years now. I think we're coming
mm,
up on that mark, which seems
hmm.
really weird to say. Like, we're like, when did that happen?
Yes.
We feel like we're 18. Um, yeah. And,
Hmm.
my friend Thomas here in Austin, he's now
Yeah.
back in Santiago in Chile. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's been a lot of people through that journey who have helped me reframe, given me great reflections, things to think about, new things to consider. And most recently, my partner Gerardo, he's
Hmm.
definitely on that list. And that
Hmm.
might be a newer relationship, and yet still one of the most profound ones that's helped me
Oh,
on this journey.
lonely and lovely. I know because sometimes failure can feel so lonely sometimes, but again, I think another reframe is just taking the time to kind of step back and think about who are the people in your life that that has actually continued along the journey with you, have been encouraging, have known the right things to say, even if it's a question or a comment that you don't particularly like, but it is
Right.
truthful for
Yes.
for you during the point in time. So
Yes.
that's always a good, I think that's always a good thing to reframe or to think about when you do feel lonely as you are going through the failure, because there are people around all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? I do want to mention also special mention to James who put us in
Hmm.
contact because
Yes.
through when we first met, I was still
Hmm.
that version of Sarah before who was like trying to perform and trying to please and impress everybody and
Hmm.
improve myself.
Yeah.
And we had a bit of friction in the beginning of our
Right.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
then now we're like each other's biggest advocates and
Oh
we've
man.
like he helped me see so many things about myself that maybe I was too proud in the beginning to even look at or admit.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he's also very much like me and he's teaches martial arts and
Yeah.
self-defense.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of things that can transfer from physicality
Yeah.
to how we live our life and how we lead.
Exactly.
And so, he's definitely been there through that journey and
Hmm.
been a source of truth and a mirror that I look into a lot to make sure that I'm not, deluding myself into
Yeah. Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I love that. Love that. Thank you, James.
Yes, thank you, James.
Yes. So Sarah, that really brings us to the end of this podcast session today. Are there any final words that you would want to leave with the listeners? Anything that you would not want to leave without them hearing today?
Hmm. Well, you'll notice I just took a deep breath. So I would like to leave you with remember to breathe and smile.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all you need to do.
Yeah.
Just breathe. Take a deep breath. When things feel really hard, elongate that breath, make it
Mhm.
longer than 1 second, and
Mhm.
you're going to break out of the amygdala response, which then allows
Yes.
you to move from like fear, reactionary mode to clear, intentional mode. And so that's what I would like to leave everybody with.
Breathe and smile. Love
Yes.
it. Sarah, thank you so very much for joining us on the Best Skills podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Yes, it has. A huge thank you to Sarah for showing up with such honesty, courage, and depth. If you'd like to connect with her, you'll find all the details in our show notes. If Best Feels resonates with you, the best way to support us is to share it. Send it to a friend, leave a review on your favorite podcast app, or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Best Feels Podcast. Do you have a story of your own? We'd love to hear it. Email us at info@mybestfails.com and let's keep building this brave archive of our best fails. And if you're currently navigating a failure, personal, professional, or somewhere in between, and want a space to reflect and explore what it means for you, head to the show notes to book a discovery call with me. Failure is a community resource. Don't hoard yours. Share it. You never know who it might help or what it might heal. Until next time.